That's my hair. Is this like ridiculous and awesome at once?
Ridiculous.
And awesome?
Yeah.
Or no?
Awesome, yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi there. Welcome to the 4th episode of our show presented by Seaquartz Watch Company. I'm your illustrious host, Jakarta Steve. Today, we're going to be looking at a couple of military-inspired watches, both during the wrist check and with our review. I was actually just reading a book on military watch history, and that's kind of what got me thinking about cockpit watches. That's what I've got on my wrist today. This is a watch made to look like a cockpit watch. This one itself is an homage, if you will, to the Bell & Ross watches that were originally made in France. This one is in a case done by Namoki mods, and it's done by a company called Raven. Raven Watch Company is here in KC in the US. They do a great job with this customs department. You can just you can talk to Steve Laughlin about something like this. He did a great job on this. I asked him for a couple of different mods to it based on what I like. I like a 12-hour bezel so I can keep 2 time zones. The color pattern on this thing is great. He even blacked out the date wheel. This thing has been running within about 3 seconds. So Kosk, I love it. I'm probably never going to buy a Bell & Ross because I have this on my rating scale. This is probably about a 4. You know that. 1 is a flip. 2 is keep it a few weeks and flip. 3 is several months and flip. 4 is I'll probably keep it unless someone gives me a good price. 5 I'm keeping forever. I'll give this guy a 4. Before we go, I just want to talk to you about some of the parts of this Raven. It's got a nice bright orange second hand. The loom pips all look a lot like what you'd see on a Seiko diver. You can actually get him to do custom watches of a Seiko diver with the same thing, and he does GMTs. It's a DLC or a PVD case, and it's square. I think it's about 13 millimeters. Maybe I'll hammer that. If you want me to do a full review of the Raven, let me know. It's just so smooth. The bezel action is smooth, and Steve shaved down the crown. And so one thing I really like about this is when you unscrew the crown, these are hand windable. It's just butter. And you don't usually get that with these NH35 movements. That's what he has in here. It's just nice stuff. Anyway, let me know if you want a full review of this Raven Bell & Ross homage mod. We can do that. On to the main watch, the main course, if you will, for today. This one is again an homage, or maybe you can call it a reissue. Sorry, I think I just smudged it. This is a Newmark. So Newmark was one of 4 companies that during the 70s and 80s had contracts with the Royal Air Force. And so they would make these types of watches for pilots in the Royal Air Force. Almost all of them had a very similar shape. And I know we've talked about asymmetrical cases before in these military watches. That's pretty much my favorite thing in the world, is an asymmetric case in a chronograph with some military history or something like NASA history. So this ticks all those boxes for me. Newmark was one of those 4 companies that did this. The other ones were CWC, also known as Cabot Watch Company. They're now owned by Silverman's. I'm not sure what that relationship was in the past. They were founded by a guy named Ray Mellor, and they started supplying the British military, I think, in 72. They ended up taking the contracts from Rolex. That's how good of watches those are. Newmark was in there with them. Hamilton had some Royal Air Force Fliegers that were similar to this. And finally, Seiko also did some. That's just a little bit of history behind this. They flew them in the Harriets and some of the other things in the Tornado. But let's go over the specs for this watch. The 6BB has a box sapphire domed crystal. I don't know if you can tell from there. We'll do some close-ups. It's gorgeous. It sits really proud of the case. Sorry to take that from my friend Jason, but that's a great turn of phrase. I love it. On their website, they say it has a 38 millimeter nominal case. It flares out to about 41 millimeters from the crown to the case. The crown has 24 teeth on it. So that's something cool. I don't see people talking about that a lot. It's 20 millimeters at the lugs, in terms of lug width. This watch is only 12.8 millimeters from the base of the case all the way to the top of the domed sapphire top hat crystal. That's really thin. It looks a little thicker, but it's not. It fits really well. The lug height is 46.5. That's lug to lug. This will fit anyone, man, woman, and most children. It has enough wrist presence with all that dome to get you where you want to go, but it's short enough to really fit just about any wrist. My biggest complaint on this is the NATO it comes on is kind of that weird fabric NATO. It's not like traditional NATO. I think this stuff sucks. I give the NATO a 1. I'm going to take it off. It has brushed, polished sides, and it's got a little bit of polishing. If you can notice, if you get up in close, just on the bezel is nice and small. Sometimes you'll see some of these with the bezels that are too big. It's got great brushing, stainless steel. This watch has removable spring bars. Some of the other ones don't. They had fixed. It has 100 meters of water resistance. They say that's static. I think this is X3 and X1 Super Luminova. It's really bright at night. And inside of it beats a Seiko VK88. What does that mean? Let's stop. Oh, that's the 24-hour. Yeah, so what that means is that we've got a mecha quartz here. And you may ask, well, what's a mecha quartz? It's run by a quartz crystal, but it gets a really smooth sweep. Real smooth sweep on that hand because it's got a mechanism in there. I don't really know the mechanics of it. It's quartz powered. It runs like a mechanical watch. It's great. It gets a smooth sweep instead of the tick, tick, tick. And that's what a lot of people like. My only issue with these Seiko VK88s is they have a 24-hour subdial. I think that's kind of silly. Because it's married to the main hand, so you can't even use it like a GMT. It just is a useless subdial to me. Some people like it. They say, well, it helps with military time, and it's a military watch. I'll accept it on this one, especially because it's got a Seiko in it, and Seiko was a supplier of the Royal Air Force. That's my biggest criticism to me of this watch. Everything else I love. I love the tracks around it. I love the font of the numbers. I love the way that the case shape is asymmetrical on one side. I like how it stays tight on the other side. I like the downturn of the lugs on this watch. They look great. And even cooler on this watch, on the case back, it's got a NATO stock number. So these can be NATO issued. These can be issued to troops in the present. Newmark has been an issuer to militaries in the past. This one I got in particular has a date window on it. I like that on this one. I usually prefer it not to have a date window. I think they've done a great job with the way that they have boxed this date window in. It matches the font of the numerals. And the last thing I wanted to talk about on this was the stepped crown. If you want to look at that, it fits perfectly down the way it's stepped into the asymmetric case. So that's awesome. So final, we're going to have to give this a ranking. So we're on to the Steve rating system. Number 1, a 1 on the Steve system, or the Jakarta Stevie system, is a 1 means I'm going to flip it. I don't like it. A 2 means I'm going to keep it for a while, maybe a few weeks or a few months, enjoy it a little bit, then flip it. A 3 means it's an awesome watch. I'm going to keep it, several months. I'll probably flip it when I can. 4 is I'm going to keep it for the time being unless I get a great price on it, and then I'll flip it. 5 is I plan to keep it forever. Well, I've had this for a few months, so I'm going to probably have to give it a 3. I would prefer to have left it. I'm going to give it a 2.5. This is a 2.5 final rating. I hate 24-hour subdials, so sorry Newmark, and also the NATO sucks. So other than that, it's a great watch. Thanks for watching. Follow me, you idiots.